I am thrilled to introduce Paz Pisarski, who has dedicated her life to helping people build impactful communities. She's the co-founder of the Community Collective, a community for community builders, in Australia and New Zealand. She's helped over 100 businesses build strong communities, including Australia's largest founder community at Startup Victoria, a local co-working space at Happy Spaces. Love the co-working space moment, okay? Like lots of history there. A university startup community at RMIT Activator, asylum seeker women at non-for-profit SisterWorks, and so many more. When she's not building community, she's drinking chamomile tea, let's go, and composing relaxation music at Paz Sounds. And I hope that that link is dropped because we all need those beats, okay? In a talk sponsored by Better Mode, Paz will share with us 10 things she wished she knew before choosing her tech stack. Hey, Paz, it is all you,
Hey,
girl.
oh, thank you so much for that, Victoria. I am so excited to be here. And what a beautiful intro. And I absolutely loved my lessons learned. My 10 I wish I knew before choosing my community tech stack. And so I actually just want to begin by saying welcome. Womanjika, kia ora aya, bienvenida, everyone. As Victoria said, my name is Paz Pisarski, and I'm the co-founder of the Community Collective. And it is such an honor to be able to actually just share with you the things that I have learned to do and to not do when choosing my community tech stack. Because after managing countless different communities on many different technology platforms and tech tools, today really my purpose is to share what I have learned in order to help you not only choose your tech stack if that's where you're at right now, but also to continuously refine, evaluate, and actually decide whether your tech stack is still fulfilling the needs that you have and that your community has. And so, a ritual that we have here in Australia before we start any workshop or a talk is that we actually begin with an acknowledgement of country. And if you've never heard of an acknowledgement of country before, this is something that we do to play our part in reconciliation to the Indigenous people of our land. And so, to do an acknowledgement of country, I would like to begin by taking a moment, by taking a breath, if you will. And actually, just to pay my respects to the Indigenous people of the land that I am tuning in from today, which is the land of the Wadawurrung people. I'm based in Torquay, in Victoria, down under in Australia, a small coastal town near Melbourne. And on behalf of everyone here tuning live, I'd like to actually just pay our respects to the Indigenous owners and acknowledge the rich tradition that they have to this culture, our country, and of course, the community. They are some of the first community builders of the world, and we have learned so much from them. And that is how you do an acknowledgement of country. And I'd also like to acknowledge how today is going to run. So we're going to start with a really quick check-in. I'm going to share a bit about my story. I'm going to share the 10 things I wish I knew before choosing my tech stack. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm going to give you then a sneak peek into my current tech stack, which I have refined over many, many years. We're going to close, celebrate, have a dance party virtually. I can't see anyone, but I know you're there having fun with me. So let's dive in. So a check-in, what is this? This is a ritual we do at the Community Collective where at the start of every session, we actually want to give a moment to have everyone share basically have a voice at the start of the session. We believe in connection before content. So I've just been told that I actually can't see the chat, but all of you can. So please post in the chat on a scale of 0 to 5. How would you rate your current tech stack? 0 is like terrible. It is not serving my needs. I feel like I'm using tech tools from other people and it's really frustrating. It actually is making my life harder. Or 5 is like, it's perfect. It is so solid. I'm feeling really strong and I've found the tech tools that I want. I can see a 3 here, which is pretty in the middle. So that's where a lot of people sit. They're like, I'm using a few good things, but some of them are like not fit for purpose. So whatever your number is that you just shared, my intention is to either increase the number if it is lower than a 3. And if it's a 5, then I hope that you can share some golds in the chat as well, because we are all collectively here learning together. There is a 5, 0.5, my mistake. Okay, I really hope to give you some nuggets to slowly increase those numbers, and we're not always striving for a 5 out of 5 with our tech stack perfection. We actually want to strive for experimentation. This is a flexible scale that will go up and down throughout your whole community building career. So in that sense, I would love to actually share a bit about my community building career. Why the hell am I on this stage talking about my tech stack with you? So I have found myself at the intersection of building community and helping people build startups for the past 6 years. I've done that predominantly in Melbourne. And my first taste of community building was at a not for profit called SisterWorks, where we helped asylum seeker women become financially independent by building their own businesses in Melbourne. It was an in person, intimate community, very hands on, and actually, with a lot of in person communities, you use technology to actually increase that connection and authenticity. I joined RMIT Activator when they just launched, and I ran over 10 accelerator programs. I was helping students, staff, and alumni at a university build high growth startups. I then joined one of Australia's largest startup community, which is now called the Startup Network. And we ran various memberships helping people either who just had an idea for a business, all the way up to some of the biggest scale ups in Australia to actually build high growth startups. So this was running a lot of events, a lot of intimate dinners. We had hybrid elements, of course. And as Victoria mentioned, I've also gone in person and built communities in co-working spaces, which is one of my favorite ways to build community. But during this time, I was managing a lot of different communities in the startup space, and throw in a pandemic. And Melbourne was one of the most locked down cities in the world. We did over hundreds of days of stage 4 lockdown where we had 5K radiuses, curfews. We couldn't leave the house for longer than an hour. We couldn't sit on park benches when we went outside. It was crazy. And a lot of founders found this really difficult. A lot of people found this difficult. But in Melbourne, there was a lot of businesses going under, or they were booming and they just could not keep up with the growth. So, of course, naturally, they lent on support for the community managers in the startup space. But what I noticed was there was not a lot of support for the community managers in the startup space in Melbourne going through these intense lockdowns. So I got on the phone, I started calling all the different community managers that I knew. I called a lot of people in my network and got introduced to community builders. And I asked them, what are your challenges? What are you trying to achieve? And how can we support each other? And this is how we accidentally started a business. This is how the Community Collective began, with a meetup at the Commons in Cremorne in June 2021. We brought 17 people together to talk about what it was like building communities in the startup space in Australia. And it went viral. We had hundreds of community builders in the startup space join our Airtable meetup registration link over the course of a few months. We grew highly fast through word of mouth. And it was one of the most incredible things to see hundreds of community builders sharing their stories, catching up for monthly meetups online. And today, the Community Collective exists to support community builders in the Australian and New Zealand startup space to build impactful communities. And we do that through an 8-week community cohort program, recruitment, and consultancy. I actually quit my full-time job last year in June, registered the Community Collective as a business, and have now found myself as a founder, building a team of now 4 people, and we are slowly growing. And so with that, I have learned a lot about technology. I've learned a lot about the different tools, platforms, iterating, experimenting. And together, I have actually really thought about the 10 things that I wish I knew. My co-founders, Melia and Jala, and I started the Community Collective with the intention of supporting people. We had no idea that it would turn into a high growth business, let alone a global community across over 15 countries now. So, to make sure that we're all on the same page, I want to ask a really silly, fundamental question, because this foundational understanding is key to then understand the 10 things that I wish I knew. So, to make sure that we're all on the same page, a tech stack, also known as a technology stack, is a collection of tech tools and platforms that businesses use to manage its products and community. The difference between a tech tool and a platform, in my experience, a tech tool is an individual tool that will help you perform an action to support the community, whereas a platform is a place where you can host the community and the member on. So, an example would be Airtable, would be a tech tool that helps me um, deliver forms and automations. Disco is a platform that helps me host a member portal on it. Okay, with that in mind, number one, your tech stack is not about you. It is about your members. So many times I learnt that, I used to think, okay, I've got to choose a tech stack that I really love. I'm really good at LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups. I'll just start there. But actually, whilst it is important to understand and consider ourselves in choosing our tech stack, it's actually about our members. We have to understand, what technology are they already using? What do they enjoy using? What time of day are they using technology? Do they even have access to technology? We have a lot of people in Nigeria who join our community cohort, and sometimes they have frequent power outages. A lot of people don't have access to laptops, so we need to think about mobile. Okay, are our technology platforms and tech tools usable on mobile for our members? And so, a really good question to think about, if you're at the start of your journey and you're thinking about your tech stack, are you thinking about changing your tech stack? You have to ask yourself, will you go to them? Will you go to your members and go to where they are? Or will they come to you? And what I mean by this in terms of technology is, you could basically do some research and say, okay, what are the tech tools that my community is already using? For example, when we launched the community cohort program, I went out and asked over 100 community builders, what technology are you already using? And one of the most frequently mentioned tech tools was Slack. People were managing their own communities, they were in there with their teams. And so this was already a tool that our members had habits of checking daily. And then, I could make a decision and go, okay, I'm going to use Slack because that's where my members already are, which is a really quick win. Perhaps my community isn't big enough for me to launch something and drag all of my members to the new platform, which is, will they come to you? In the early days, it's great to go to your members, but if you grow really quickly and your community is thriving and it doesn't really matter what platform you're on, you could go to Mars and your community members would follow you. This is a great place to then ask yourself, will they come to you? So if you choose, a custom built member platform on a new domain where members don't have habits of checking, that is a great opportunity to build something that is fit for purpose for your community on a tech platform, and then invite your members to come to you because you have built that reputation and the value. Whereas the biggest pitfall here is launching a new community on a new website domain, and it's really hard to get anyone to actually go there. So the community cohort, we did an element of both. We went to Slack, but then we have a cohort portal on Disco to basically do a little bit of both. Number two, your members are the priority, but don't forget that you are also using the tools. So, in this really key lesson that I learned is that, yes, we must make decisions about our tech stack based on what our members are using, their habits that they already have. But please don't forget that you are going to be using this tool daily. You need to make sure that you actually enjoy the back end of this tech tool and the platform. Do you like a visual platform that really displays a lot of data and elements, or do you just need something that is high functionality? It works on any kind of internet, and really it is just robust and sturdy. So please remember that in our day-to-day lives, we are going to be spending a lot of time implementing this tech platform. If you hate it, and you don't like the user experience, you don't like the customer support, you're going to have an aversion for being on this tech tool. And as the community manager, not wanting to use the tech tool that the members are using is going to create a lot of barriers. So a way in which you can do that is, when you're trying out different tech tools and platforms, get a free demo. Jump on a call with someone who is from the tech tool and product team and see how they use it. Get a free test account for a month and just start building a couple things. That really is a great way to actually just test if you enjoy using this tool as well. Number 3, your tech stack should make your life easier, not harder. A couple people in this call rated their tech stack as zero 0.5, a 1, a 2 out of 5. That sounds frustrating. So when you're thinking about your tech stack, ask yourself, is this tech tool going to integrate with the other tech tools that we use? Are we going to have data in multiple places and be downloading multiple spreadsheets to make everything connect with one another? Are we going to be spending hours of manual admin labor every month trying to make this tech stack work? When I was working at a co-working space, I joined and I did an audit of how they were spending their time. And they spent 9 hours a month on manual admin tasks to charge the membership fee of their members. And I thought, oh my God, like that is such an opportunity to automate, make something more efficient. And so after working with their team for 3 weeks, I created a new tech stack and I made their 9 hours of manual admin work disappear by evolving their tech stack using automation and using different platforms like Stripe, direct debits, and sometimes we find ourselves in these situations where we just think, oh, I'm doing it this way and I know it's something more efficient, but I actually don't have time to improve it. So think about how can you bring in other people to help you make your tech stack more easier and not harder, because it should be making you more efficient, not not less efficient. Number 4, never let external limits dictate your tech stack. I know it can be really tough when you're working in an organization that perhaps has a default tech stack. They say, we use Microsoft Teams. Everyone must use Microsoft Teams. Don't go rogue, and get a new subscription for a tech tool that isn't certified in our tech stack. There can be a lot of red tape, big university environments, massive corporates, big tech companies. So you could be coming up against a lot of limits against company rules, where data is hosted. Of course, budgets like cash is a limit, but please never feel like you are at the mercy of these limits. Of course, there are going to be some hard and fast limits that you cannot cross, but I want to give you an example to not be deterred by the limits. If you get a no first time round, see if you can turn that into a yes. And an example of that is when we were at RMIT Activator, huge university in Melbourne. And pandemic hits, we had to pivot everything online. And the university has a Microsoft subscription. And so they wanted us to use Microsoft Teams for all of our online accelerator sessions. But when we tested the Teams functionalities, at that time they had limits. We couldn't do like breakout rooms and have a lot more functionalities. It wasn't as easy just to join as a link as it is in Zoom. And so whilst we had a note, they said, no, you can't use Zoom. We didn't want to take that for the first answer. So we put together a 20-page document and a brief case, basically like a briefing paper about why we should be using Zoom for our members, and it got approved. We started using Zoom. We were the only department in the whole university using Zoom, and we connected all of our members, and it was just so much more enjoyable for both our team and them. So remember that, don't think that you are at the mercy of your limits. Always try and see if you can get through. Of course, if they come back with a no and that's final, well, we will look somewhere else. Okay, we are halfway through, people. This is number 5. Do your research. This may sound so simple when choosing a tech stack, but I can't tell you how many people I have seen choose a tech stack based on seeing one person use it, hearing one good story, and going, great, I trust it. It must be amazing. I will just buy a subscription and I will build my community platform on it and launch it for my members. So it is really key to make sure that, yes, you should be understanding how other people are using this tech tool, but you really need to do your own research. So some questions to ask to help you to do your own research is really to understand, what are the features and functionalities of this tech tool or platform? what is its capabilities, and then what do I need? Of course, there's endless feature lists on websites, but you need to write your own list of the features and functionalities that you are looking for. Who has created the platform? I do so much research around where the company has been founded, what country it's based in, who are the founders, and then who is the team running it, because that will tell you a lot about actually the mindset of where the team is taking the tech tool, which will give you an insight into how it is built and how it will run. Whereas the data hosted, we got to think a lot about privacy and data hosting. We need to make sure it's robust and they have really great and reliable systems in place. What reporting and analytic functions do they have? How frustrating is it when you have these incredible platforms and then you're trying to give data and metric stats on the community and you can't pull them from anywhere? So you need to make sure that they're giving you the right stats. Can you afford the platform? Cash is a huge one. Does it integrate with the tech tools that you already use? And what support will you have when customizing the platform? This is a massive one. If you're migrating from Facebook groups to a custom built member platform, ask the team, okay, how much support will you help me in migrating all of my content across? Will the team, your own team internally, help you do this as well? Because that can be a bit of a time consuming approach. And can members customize their email notifications? I will never forget when we signed a 2-year agreement to use a platform and we didn't ask this question. And it was a startup at the time building an incredible platform that we definitely backed, but they hadn't built the feature of members customizing their email notifications. And so we launched this tool to our alumni community, hundreds of founders. And within a month, we had so many angry emails from our members saying, I can't turn the digest weekly emails off. How do I turn them off? How do I customize my notifications? And we pissed a lot of people off. And I wish I asked that question when we were doing our research. And do I know anyone who has used this platform before? Again, that is asking people who are already using that. Number 6, once you've done your research, you've got to test, get that demo account, jump into the back end, as I already said, and then make sure you also do a test with one of your members. Get a test Slack account and then onboard one of your members onto Slack. See how their experience is. Jump on a live call. Have watch them, how they use the platform to understand, okay, is this actually how we want to set it up? And have we set it up in the right way? So many times I've built a member portal, I've shared it with a member, and they say, I actually just can't find the community guidelines. And I thought I put it in a really obvious space when really I didn't. Number 7, keep it simple. Less is more. I know a lot of us dream of having that one platform that does everything for us, but honestly, I know that sometimes it might not exist. And so we feel like, okay, we need this one and this one and this one and this one. And then we end up with 60 different tools that we're using for the same purpose. At one point, I was using 3 different email marketing platforms to send member EDMs, public newsletters, and private newsletters. And when someone unsubscribed, I had to unsubscribe them on 3 other platforms manually. I just thought, I've complicated my life here. So I refined it and made it more simple. Number 8, the last 3 tactics here, people. This is keep scale in mind. When you're choosing your platform, is it going to be built for purpose when you have hundreds or thousands of members? When we were choosing our community cohort portal, we actually decided to invest in the second program into a robust cohort portal because I knew that this was going to be a program that we were going to run for a long time. So whilst it felt premature to actually build something that was really robust and had a great functionalities when we were still only 6 months into running our business and community, we invested in Disco and built our cohort portal because I knew that we were going to scale this program. Number 9, building habits is just as important as the tools themselves. So really thinking about, whilst you may choose the most incredible platforms and tech tools for your members, you actually have to make sure that you build habits to ensure that they actually check and use the tech tools. 2 examples of this is we run an ambassador program and all of our ambassadors check their calendar every Monday. So we send them a calendar invite, which is not a meeting, just a friendly reminder to check the Monday Slack post of every Monday during this 18-week program. A lot of people have habits of checking their emails. So every Monday, we send an email to our cohort program, and it has a link to actually reply in Slack because we're building the habit to have them check Slack every Monday to stay up to date with the program. Number 10, you can change your tech stack at any time. If you are anything below a 5, remember that you can iterate, experiment, and actually change your tech stack to make sure that you are still creating something that is fit for purpose for yourself and your members. Okay, we are nearly at time here, so I'm going to speed through my tech stack before Victoria jumps in, which is really giving you a sneak peek as to what I use. So you'll see here that I use Airtable for forms, Slack for communication, Disco for our member portal, Gather Round for online networking events. I'm obsessed with Butter for online workshops. I use Luma for our event registrations and member EDMs, Beehive for our newsletters, Stripe for payments, Google for all our file management and sharing elements with our community, Canva, Australia-based tool launched in Sydney for all of our graphic design, Zapier for automations, and then Common Room for our Slack automations. And the last two, Dashlane for our password manager. Dashlane is phenomenal because it doesn't actually share the password when you're sharing it with team members. It just shares an automatic login. It's great. And Metrical for social media scheduling. So remember, behind every tech stack is a human. So make sure your experience feels like one. Thank you so much. I'm here for any questions.
Paz, that was fabulous, very robust, and you have so many tools. I am, whew, they're a lot, I gotta say, but they're working. They work.
They're working,
Fabulous.
they're working. I know. My rule is, like, keep it simple. I used to have more tech tools, and
I
I've
know,
refined. So, yeah,
I
I can
know.
definitely still say that there's a lot.
There are a lot, and, your girl's got ADD, if that wasn't obvious, so I can go down the rabbit hole of one tool for many months. So either way, thank you so much for sharing that. We are at time, and there are questions for you in the chat, in the main chat. So if you could get back to those outside of here, that would really be fabulous. And thank you again for your time and energy.